Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Rahmadhani Putri, and I'm from the 6th group. My others member is Dewantari and Alda fahira. So in this occasion, we will explain about the comparing and evaluating approach in language teaching. The first is types of method, technique, and approach to language teaching. About this type of method or technique and approach, Gio introduced several names such as grammar, translation method, direct method, audiolingual method, cognitive approach, multiple approach, verbal active method, and TPR, total physical response, and natural approach, and the last is Suggestopedia community. The following are 4 methods, technique, approach to language teaching, and also their characteristic. The first is grammar translation method. In the background, grammar translation method began to be used since 15th century when the people taught Greek and Latin language. This method is widely used to read classic books, explore large literature, analysis discourse, and rules of the language. And the next, there is a key features of the grammar translation method. The characteristic of this method are learning language is reading. Teaching language mean introduce the rules and fact about the grammar. And the next, introduce the rules and vocabulary, and introduce the rules and content of the reading through translating activities from the target language to the sources language. And the last, compare the source language with the target language with equivalent and consistent. The next, there is sample learning plan in the GMT. The first, before starting the lesson, a student are invited to sit in a row and with an open book and told to read selected text by providing a number of vocabulary. The students are given a short vocabulary and then they write the new word when reading the language translation. Next, some students are asked to read the selected text aloud. After the teacher or lecturer read a few sentences, so the students read a portion of their script with silently. And after that, the students began to translate the sentence from the script to another language, and the teacher or lecturer help them if they found any difficulties. If this lesson requires an explanation of the grammar, then to the teacher or lecturer. And after that, the students began to translate the sentence from the script into another language. And then they also outline the use of the tenses by examples in their reading. So this method is not appropriate to the new students because in GTM presentation is carried out by providing definition of word types. So the students are trying how to translate the sentence and the paragraph by providing the vocabulary or for memorize or for homework. And the next is there is direct method. In the direct method, this is the first used by Berlitz and Jefferson in the 19th century. The rationale is the students learn to understand language with make a list of the topics or term in a grade of number. So the student will learn to talk by talking about the greater or number, and they say it by speaking, especially in the conversation. And the next is there is a key features of direct method. The main characteristic of direct method, the first is language learning should start with an artistic and atmosphere using an object in the class and action. And the next, learning usually depart from actual life situation with display images that have been especially constructed. And the next explanation will be explained by my friend.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I will explain about the audiolingual method. Audiolingual method, as we know, is the era oral function, and the skill new key is a scientific approach to teaching. And this method start from to school and psychology and new behavior and behavior to linguistic and the descriptive language. Audiolingual method have 6 methods. They part from the assumption that language is an oral system that regard writing and speaking as a secondary representation. Language involves the study of repetitive language pattern and phonology and morphology as integral unit of analysis. And language can be obtained through learning from accessing pattern. And the original language are obtained orally before reading. And last, language can be learned by comparing the second pattern deductive language. And next, communication approach as a key feature of CA, like other method technique of approaches beforehand. This CA also feature that can be recognized up close. Christine 1976 put forward several characteristics of CA as follow. The main purpose of cognitive teaching is to develop types abilities that resemble the same type of speaker ability original. And then in language teaching, instructor must be able to change and also change to something that not yet understood, unknown to. And the situation that is understood known from the basic knowledge of student who must be know cognitive structure to a level. And the achievement of understanding new language, the material and the teacher must be able to take student to the situation allow the creative use of language. And before linguistic act are dynamic, evolving, and deserve, students must be taught to understand rules and oral system dynamically are also rather than being asked to memorize strict rule. And last, a sample lesson plan. The lesson plan that follow the CA is a sample of an interpretation and elaborate of the way cognitive teaching is the classroom scope. First, before the lesson begin, teacher and lecture present new vocabulary related personality description. Students pay attention to visual tool in the text, demonstrating for students in a variety of activities such as teacher. Present new words which are mostly adjective, descriptive. The teacher explains in the target language about how each student personality in a visual tool appear different. And next, teacher then explain about the way of formation adjective using visual tool, and student in the class contextual support grammar explaining is done with using the original language. After that, Maha Students are asked to learn to understand the principle of adjective compatibility by doing various contextual and personal exercises using a number and adjective related to personality by the teacher. Finally, the teacher carries out evaluation and appreciation activities for strengthen student self-expression, especially in using new structure and new vocabulary. And thank you. That's enough for my explaining. And thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, I will be the next material. Procedure for evaluating language teaching method, techniques or approach. The first, analysis, learning needs. Learning needs analysis is related to introduction of general and specific language needs that can be used others in the development. General objective, specific objective, and material in language teaching program. These needs focus not only on the general parameter or language program such as getting data about who people are learning, what level of proficiency they are, the goals and expectations of teacher and learning citizens, such as what skill, teacher, teaching and proficiency level. This need analysis question the level of competency that the learning community has and what the learning community requires to use in the completing the program. The aim is to identify what language skill and the level of language proficiency that must be conferred. The need analysis recognizes that the learning objective of citizens vary and must be determined before making a decision regarding the material and the method that must be used. And the second, formulates learning objective. Information obtained from the analysis of learning needs can be used in the development, selection and improvement of objective program specific objective, the general objective of a program language. The specific objective identify the type and the level the language proficiency the citizen learn to get in the program learning. Sometimes the specific goals are stated in the level of proficiency in a particular or deep skill are form of behavior goals. Descriptions of behavior or type of performance that is learning citizens are able to demonstrate to complete the program. Condition that affects the expected perform created and criteria used to estimate the such of performance. And the three, selecting teaching and the learning activities. If the type and the level of linguistic proficiency are specific before it has been achieved, then the teaching and learning activities can already be set. Activities and learning material in the class can be accounted for setting general goals and special objectives and selecting according to language skill possessed and the learning process the learning citizens. To achieve goals specialists the program, namely gaining skill and the behavior or get a centrally level of linguistic proficiency. In the development language curriculum, teacher and program developer needs to specify and selecting the type of the task, activities and the learning experience effectiveness which is tested and meets the general objective of the program. The activities often referred to in the language teaching methodology. And the fourth, evaluating the teaching program. Evaluating refers to data collection procedure concerning dynamic effectiveness, accessibility, timeless implementation of teaching program for decision making. Evaluation highlights more whether program is effective or not effective. In many cases, when the teacher is faced with a choice in the face of two possible opinions that are in the line with the objective set. So our focus is on choosing relatively effectively program. In addition, evaluation can also discuss how teacher, learning citizen and learning material or material can interact with each other in the classroom, and how teacher and learning citizen can perceive common goal, material and learning experience of exciting language program. Okay, that's all my material. I'm sorry for my mistakes. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.